Thank you. So, question that I have for all of you is, as we introduce AI and robotics to our societies, we have different ethical considerations, right? Many people are worried from AI and robotics are going to take jobs. We had this letter from different CEOs warning that we've developed AI too much and we need to scale it back and make sure that we take into account all the different ethical and societal impacts. How do you see that? Is it something that we need to take into account, or what are the ethical aspects of AI and in robotics that you would like to take into account when we deploy these kind of technologies?
I think it is a significant issue. As a wise man once told me, when you give a robot instructions, it will continue to figure out how to accomplish its task. So if part of that is the robot is going to get turned off before it accomplishes its task, then there's the possibility that the robot doesn't want to get turned off. So therein lies the crux of the issue. So I think there does need to be regulation around what these robots can and can't do, what AI can and can't do, because as you both know, there are a lot of nefarious actors outside of our borders, maybe within our borders, that have different views of what AI should be able to do. And on another note, as we were talking about the utilization of robots, it struck me, everybody thinks they're high tech, right? Which the unit actually is. But perhaps its biggest opportunity is in the lowest tech areas of life, where there are huge opportunities for advancement and cleaning, delivery, cutting the grass, things like this that, quick question. Who here, when they were a kid, cut grass, shoveled snow, worked in a restaurant? Okay, look around. You ask that question of any group of 16-year-olds, there's no hands going up. But guess what? Grass is still there. Snow still needs to get shoveled. Dishes still need to get bussed. But I think that's where that is. But to answer your question, I think there are opportunities for major time challenges with AI and robotics that do need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think Nick's exactly right. The one thing that I can assure you is that all the nations in the world are going to see how they can best exploit artificial intelligence, machine learning, to be able to serve their nation and their people the best. So there's a sea change that's going to be happening within the global geopolitical situation. And I'm not sure that we wanted to get into this kind of conversation, but in the cyber domain, artificial intelligence, we as the United States need to be prepared, because I can promise you, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, they're all trying to figure out quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and how can they gain market share, power, economy growth over the United States, who has the leading position in the world. There's no sunshine and rainbows out there when you're talking real politics between nations. They all want to aggrandize themselves and have a dominant position. End of discussion. Something more germane probably to the question is, as an author, Elad mentioned I'm an author. I've received a questionnaire from my some of these associations I belong to, AI and writing, and there's this huge concern that AI is just going to start writing novels, and so I tried it. It wasn't very good. So, but because I was all for taking advantage of that. Sadly, it didn't come close to the third grade level that I write at. So, but there is very high concern within at least the author community about where do we go with AI from, okay, Microsoft Word telling you got the wrong word there, that's artificial intelligence, all the way to a writing a book potentially. So it's a really interesting concept.
So before I answer, Nick mentioned in terms of cutting grass. So of course, when I was a kid, I cut a lot of grass. But I work. My family are dairy farmers, so I was in charge of cleaning the stables. So have that as a background. Remy and I rented a house in Vermont, and essentially close to 3 feet of snow fall during the night. And in the morning, she said, before we use the car, we have to shovel the front, and which is bigger than this. And and she goes inside, and 10 minutes later, she comes out, everything is clean. And she says, "How can you? You're from Puerto Rico. How can you shovel snow so fast?" I said, "I have to shovel stool or poo-poo from the cows. The faster you do it, the lesser the smell." So that's a background. That's an AI kind of thing. So two things talking about one ethics and then the other one the opportunity. The biggest thing for me related to ethics in AI is the decision tree that a computer or an AI can create to preferentially treat patients, meaning the less sick would be treated first because it's the most egalitarian way of doing. Instead of the public health way of trying to get as many people as possible. So, so that's a dilemma that has not been resolved, and you have to have different ethics inclusions in any regulation or policy that comes out. In medicine, meanwhile, we lose 98,000 people, as per the Institute of Medicine, secondary to infections or bleeding in the hospitals in the United States. That's only the United States. Other people say that it's over 125,000. And in medicine, you are going to have two major opportunities. One is the robots that Elad and your team have created. They can actually serve to deodorize and sanitize the operating rooms and the different rooms when there's no people there in a much more efficient and effective way. I think that's a huge opportunity. And it's not only the operating room. For example, in MD Anderson, from one office of mine to the executive office of mine in the other side of the building, I have to walk 20 miles. I mean, 20 minutes. So that's an area that you get one person with the flu, everybody gets the flu. Because even though I recommend the flu vaccine to everybody, the- sadly, the last 5, 10 years, the coverage only has been 40% protection to 60%. So you can start doing the multiplication and you realize it's a big number and creates a lot of absenteeism in the healthcare field. So that the sanitation is really crucial, especially in the OR and in common areas. The other thing that I think that Nick mentioned it before, we're having a crisis right now in healthcare in terms of the lack of human resources of all kinds. We have over 1 million deficit on nurses, over 95,000 deficit on physicians, and that's our ultimate professions. But in between, we have a lack of techs everywhere. So there's a move right now for some of the technical jobs to be replaced by robotics, which makes a lot of sense. Like I always say, so if someone is creating robots, you have a division here that works in repairs and creating the robots. So I think that there's going to be a change in the workforce. And I think, like Nick mentioned, it's going to be at all levels, from the very entry all the way to the super technology one. So
Okay, yeah, it is a real issue. And all of you talked about the labor shortages and all of that. This is something that we hear every single day. Restaurant owners cannot hire food runners and all of these. Hotel owners cannot find people to vacuum carpets. Nursing homes cannot find people to help people, especially with dementia, with memory care units. And this is something that I would like to rephrase the replacing jobs with basically filling in where people don't want to do these jobs anymore. Okay, the thing is that restaurant owners still have customers to serve. How many times, you or everyone in the crowd sat in a restaurant and just raised their hand, hey, can I get the check, please? I just want to leave, I want to pay you. And the server was just like, just a second, I need to run to bring something to someone. Okay, this is something that is happening all the time, and we are not happy with that as customers. Okay, hotel owners cannot find these people, but they still need to clean their carpets. They have miles of carpets, and they need to be cleaned every single day. So this is kind of like where robots are basically filling in where people don't want to do these jobs anymore. So just kind of like we are trying to reshape the way that people look at robots and job replacement and the ethical issues beyond that.
because in the one of the challenges in the operating room right now is that the text. And when you're in the OR, you turn to your side. I'm right-handed, so I turn to my right hand and ask for X instrument. And if that tech has retired, you have to retrain another person. But just imagine that the hours are very, very harsh. And most of the workforce in the healthcare right now are female, and they want to have families, and they want to have kids, and that has created a challenge for them. Just imagine be able to support them with a tech that is a robot that actually the same way you train the people that you're doing the franchises and all that. Just imagine you training the robot and the tech at the same time. So when I ask for a spatula, a scalpel, or whatever, the robot will be able to do it without making a mistake. Because all the needles and instruments that are lost in the operating room inside a patient is because of human error. There's no you can see whatever movie, the doctor is innocent, the nurse is innocent. No, everybody is going to get sued. And it was something really stupid that happened in that transaction of a needle or a gauze. So I think robotics will bring perfection or at least mitigate error in operations. So that point that you did is very good. It's not to replace, it's to empower um, the workforce in healthcare.
Okay, here's a quiz. Many blank make for light work. Hands. If only I had another set of, I could get this done faster. If you think about how we're wired as people, it's to have help. Robots are help. They don't replace jobs, to your point. They fill in where hands are needed. I think the particular brilliance of what you're doing with your franchising is go back in time to the turn of the last century. and the car has been invented. Henry Ford invented the car, maybe Daimler, but you didn't invent the robot, somebody else did. And now there is this thing called a car. Who wants to be the first person to buy that invention and then drive from Detroit to California? Who wants to take that challenge? Where are you going to get the gas? You get a flat tire. You break the axle in the Rockies. Where are you going to go to get it fixed? So the invention of the car was really spurred on by the invention of the gas station and the invention of the mechanic shop. Then all of a sudden, you had the ability to take this wonderful thing and go from point A to point B. To this date, there is no gas station for robots. There is no automotive repair shop for robots. So you have these well, you do, but if I have a robot in Miami and it breaks, I need to ship it to you. But you don't have a franchise there yet, but you will. So that's what I think is so amazing about what you're doing in the franchise realm, is that you're creating that last mile between major multi-billion-dollar global corporations like SoftBank and LG and Bear Robotics and everybody else that is inventing the future, which is terrific, until the thing breaks at my restaurant in Miami, and then I call you and you say, oh, it's going to take 5 weeks to get that part. Well, I don't have 5 weeks. So I believe that there are millions and millions of businesses. There are 30 million businesses in our country. How many of them would like another set of blank of hands? But how many of them are saying, I'm not going to be the first sucker to take that Model T from Detroit to California? That's where I think this is about to change. So I do think this is a sea change that is going to happen, and I think franchising is the perfect opportunity to connect local entrepreneurs with invention and to start filling that last mile to give those extra hands.
Absolutely, and it happened already in the medical environment. All the machines and robots and all the tools that you're using are all through franchises, because hospitals need them to be serviced locally immediately. There is no wait time. So yeah, thank you for that. That's absolutely correct. I want to shift gear a little bit. We have a lot of educators, both in the crowd and also online. And I have a question for Tony. As a superintendent, as a CEO of public school, large public school systems, where do you see robots, AI help with student engagement, with performance, with changing the way that classrooms and curriculum is being taught?
Well, that's a really great question, because there's nothing I value more than the teacher. Both my parents were teachers. When I was superintendent at Wake County, which is Raleigh in the Research Triangle, there were 9,500 teachers in the 170 schools teaching the 150,000 students that we had. And we also had teacher assistants, and they did a lot of the routine tasks around the classroom. And to me, there is a role for a robot with AI to be able to go around that classroom, be programmed to do some of the more routine tasks. And you can still have the human teacher assistant there, but why not have more hands, to Nick's point, to help monitor that classroom? And there are a lot of innovation, science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM. You'll hear STEAM, but you throw the arts in there, is the way of the future. We had initiated so many STEM programs in Wake County that were oversubscribed because we didn't have enough seats. That's where the hard skills is where parents want their students, for the most part, to go. And so if you couple that STEM initiative with this really demand for more control in the classroom and more education opportunity, I think that there's a way to take these education robots, maybe tweak them a little bit, and get them in the classroom. The kids will love it. They'll find it more interesting. It'll be more interactive. And I had a few teachers that were flipping the classroom. Some of you know what that is. They would actually film the class, and you would watch it at home, and then you would take the test as part of your homework. And then when you came in the next day, the tests were graded. And if you maxed the test, you were moved into a group over here to work on the next assignment. If you failed the test, you were moved into this group for remedial work. If you did okay, but still had some questions, you were in this group. And that was a more efficient way of using her time. And those kids love that because they could get the specialized attention they need. There's a role for robots in that kind of classroom. And being able to monitor and help and be programmed with AI, here's the instruction, here's the answers, and over time it could become even intuitive, being able to figure out what was the most missed question, why was it missed, and let me explain that. And there's no reason that AI and a robot can't do that.
You see, that's the policy that you have that is the way you explain it, because the interaction in between the teacher and the student is really important for the growth. I also like you just gave me an idea. This should be brought to medical schools because now we are using robots that actually even complain. And if you connect that robot to a walking robot, that walking robot can go to that station where the student is and say, no, you made a mistake, or you didn't put the pressure correctly, or actually you use severe an artery versus a vein, blah, blah, blah. So that's a very good idea.
Awesome, thank you. So one last question from my side, and then we can open it for questions from the crowd and the remote people as well. It's a short question. Do you see AI and robotics as the sunrise of humanity or the sunset of humanity? Many people are really, really afraid that Terminator is going to go out of the box and kill us all or whatnot. And I want to hear your opinion. How are you looking at this type of technologies?
Yes. I think it's the sunrise. I think we have been around for a long, long time. There have been lots of advancements, whether it's fire or steel or nuclear, robots, and somehow we managed to stick around. And if you think about all of us in this room, over the millions and billions of years that our ancestors have, preceded us, all of us are here because a whole lot of them didn't die. So if you think about statistically, the improbability that you're sitting right here, it's pretty astounding. So I don't think that robots or AI is going to change that. I think we're going to harness it for a much, much better tomorrow.
I think it's the sunrise, but in my next novel, I'm going to make it the sunset. It'll be a cliffhanger.
So, by the way, I'm a writer too for children's books. So if you want, you can go to Amazon. It's Guimo Audi. And essentially what it's for up to third grade, fourth grade. And it's teaching health and public health to kids. It's a very smart Guimo. Guimo is a hamster. So I think I don't see this as a Terminator movie. What I see here is how we do the policy. Because in healthcare, can be what's happening in Netherlands. Netherlands passed policy that if your kid is autistic or the person has a major disability, they can actually ask to be put to sleep, which is not heard in this country. And for me, I'm opposed to that. But just in the last decade, over 60,000 people have decided to terminate a kid that has autism. So that's for me, it's like a nightmare. So that's a policy. And then if the policy, like going back to your point, Tony, the policy informs the AI as a base, as one of the prime orders. Like I'm a Star Trek fan, so that the weakest person should be treated last, or the oldest person should be treated last, or the most complicated procedure should be done last. It's a way of eliminating populations in a targeted way. So that concerns me because, like you mentioned, the AI doesn't have ethics. It's whatever information is the best information to use. But I think it's a dilemma that we have to confront in healthcare today. And I'm a big time Yankees fan, big time. But one of my heroes, mostly my father's hero, was Mickey Mantle. He was an alcoholic, smoker with liver disease. He got two transplants, two. And there were thousands of people waiting for a transplant, and Mickey got it first. So if AI says Mickey's more important than Goofy, then Mickey Mantle gets the transplant. So we already have some precedent for lack of ethics in healthcare. So I think this is something that AI can correct if the ethical crimes.
Yeah, and you think about AI as simply code written by people with inherent biases and built-in prejudices, and already we're seeing that manifest. If you ask AI to describe a certain politician, depending upon what you ask it, you'll get very different answers based upon the biases of the coder.
Awesome, thank you. Questions from the crowd here? Anyone? We don't shoot lasers, I promise. Yes, we have a question. You can ask, I'll repeat it for the remote people. Okay, so I'll try to summarize. So we have two categories of jobs, of tasks. One is transactional. I move something from here to there. And the other one is more interactive. I need to work with someone to achieve a greater task. So the question for the panel is basically how you as think through that or see that when it comes to robots working with humans.
I go back to the many hands make for light work. As they get more sophisticated, the level of interactions that they're going to be able to be involved with will continue to scale. For now, it's going around picking up plates, but eventually it's going to be how to fix plumbing. And then Da Vinci robots where somebody is manipulating it, right? But at some point it's going to be like a child. I show you how to do something and then you do it. And then I show you something more sophisticated and then you do that. That's where I think they're going.
Yeah, in the military, engineers have robots that help defuse bombs, and they go forward. When the convoy stops, they've detected something, the robot goes out, and the engineer is interacting with that robot who is communicating back either through video or other signals, what they're seeing. And and what it looks like, and then they defuse the bomb. So at a very rudimentary level, that interaction has already taken place. And as Nick said, machine learning, artificial intelligence, very quickly, I think you could scale, if it's not already been done, to a very high level of almost, it's the uncanny valley, right? Almost human-like interaction.
Yes. So 2 points from my part. One, it's like Toyota, and the Navy. You don't have to be the admiral to stop a plane from leaving. You can be the cook. Anyone has the power to stop that pilot if they notice something. In Toyota is anyone can press the red button and stop the production if something is happening. So that interaction, I think, is symbiotic, and I think it will be very good. A, a example from us, and Tony is going. I'm going to be working with Tony in this project for the VA. At least we're applying for it. We created an algorithm that essentially matches people to clinical trials. And the algorithm was based with a trademark that we create called Pascal, not the French philosopher, but Pascal in terms of it eliminates the bias of the hospital or the researcher to be able to match a patient to the best match within 50 miles radius for clinical trials. And now we're going to move that to expanded. And it cannot be done only by us, by the humans. We have to use software. And then the software has to learn to read from a chart. So it's essentially translating what it read based on keywords to actually create the match. And that's what is called ambit now, which means ambitious in Poland. So, but now we realize if we don't have machines, if we don't have a software, if we don't have a computer system, we're not going to be able to do the matching because anyway, first it was handwritten and then it has to be defective by me, meaning I'm the limiting factor, my partners are the limiting factor. Now, a software makes that significantly faster. And not only that, it also learns. And you will be surprised, but not every surgeon use the same terminology. Not every clinician use the same terminology. And that would be eliminated completely. That bias, the human bias, will be eliminated. So that's a real example where we created something thinking that we were so smart, and then we realized we might be smart, but we are the limiting factor. We're the biggest slow process, so we have to move it to our software.
Yeah, another question? Tony, take it.
But, it's a really important comment and question that you raise. Uh, when I was superintendent, or even in DC public schools, the significant minority population in DC, and then certainly in Southeast Raleigh, about 30 some percent of the school system. I spent a lot of time in the African American churches, and a lot of time in the school system there, making sure that I understood the very concerns that you're raising here. And we need to make sure as we move forward that we're addressing those very concerns if we're going to have robots, for example, in the classroom. And they're working with minority populations. They've got to be objectively tuned and to make sure that they are providing the proper interaction with the students, not regardless of race or color, but just the opposite. They have to account for that to understand that it's a different human being with whom this robot is communicating. Just a real quick vignette. I noticed that as superintendent, I had a lot of young African American 6th and 7th graders that were being off-ramped by teachers into social sciences when the longitudinal studies say that if a child gets a C or better in Algebra 1 by 8th grade, he or she has an 80% chance or better of graduating from college. And so I dove deep into this, and we had an objective software that could predict a student's success by the 6th grade in algebra by the 8th grade. And so I held a meeting with every principal and assistant principal, 170 schools. So there were, almost 1,000 people. And I said, you will put every single child in Algebra 1, starting this next school year, that has a score of X or better on this software. The groan from the principals, you could hear it. We were on NC State campus. And the rationale that the teachers were using, Johnny has too many problems at home. He's got a single mom. She's got, too many, a drug addict dad or whatever. I said, I don't care. She's doing really well in math. And so taking that human decision-making inherent, I don't think it was a nefarious bias. It was just an inherent bias. And so taking that and making sure that we program the robots that are going to be interacting with the students to leach out that kind of bias, because somebody's writing that code, to your point and to my point earlier. That's a really important point, and thank you for bringing it up.
So just really quickly on that question, we are working across the country. We are in thousands and thousands of schools, school districts, independent schools, you name it. And we have multiple programs that are designed to basically engage, especially the students that you don't call the usual suspect in the computer science classrooms or robotics classrooms, right? I mean, if you go to any robotics classrooms, into any computer science, you'll typically, and that's the reality, you will find male, right? You'll find white or Asian or Indian, inheritance, right? These are the people that will be there. So we partnered with many schools, and we try to create programs that engage other populations. For example, we partnered with Austin ISD here in Texas, and we created a program that we call it Robot Fashion Show, where kids program robots. And by the way, we have a breakout room for education. You can see the robots over there. So we created a program where kids dress up the robots, okay, and they program the robots to walk the catwalk, okay? And this is together with UT Austin, with the textile department. So they create, costumes and everything. And guess what? There is music, there is motion. You see suddenly girls interested in that. And if the girls are in, the guys want to be there. Okay? We see that across, multiple different programs. The same with our virtual reality classrooms. We are taking especially schools, from communities that are underprivileged and so on, and helping them see the world. You take them into virtual reality, virtual field trips. Okay, you take them all around the world. They would never leave their town, probably. Okay, but suddenly they can be in Egypt, they can be in ancient Greece, or they can be in Paris. They can, see the 9/11 memorial in their eyes, like 360 all around them. So we are definitely putting a lot of, focus and emphasis on that.
Sure. Just to finish the moral of that story, we pushed around 3,500 students into Algebra 1 that weren't going to take it. some skipped pre-algebra. All my principals were predicting doom. We grew as a system by 1.5%, which tells you the bias was having an impact by off-ramping these kids. And I can't walk down the street of Raleigh, North Carolina right now without some parent stopping me and thanking me for some variation of that program.
So as we run a little bit later, any final thoughts before we wrap up this panel?
I think since I'm the franchise guy, the franchise that you're offering, I've seen a lot of franchises over my 21 years of doing this. There are very few that I can say have the ability to really change the world. This one does. And so if anybody is out there listening, or if you have people that are interested in owning a business, how would you like to own the distribution rights for ExxonMobil for your entire city or for your state? Because that's really what you're offering right now. And it's going to be the kind of thing that a year or 2 or 5 from now, someone's going to look back and say, that was really a no-brainer. I wish I had gotten that. Because that's what's happening right now with what you've launched. So kudos to you.
Yeah, I like Nick's gas station analogy, pick and shovel play. As this becomes more ubiquitous throughout the country, the world, I think having a franchise at Main and Main, wherever, you're going to be the go-to. You're going to be the service center. You're going to be the sales rep. You're going to be everything. And so I think that this is an amazing opportunity. I really want to thank the RobotLABs team for all they've done and for putting on this great industry day.
Yeah, I agree with echo what Nick and Tony said. For the people interested in getting a franchise that are listening to us or seeing us, in healthcare, it's going to be huge, huge. Um, I think you are at the pinnacle of the arrowhead right now. You're going to be like really the game changer. I and understand the following. I used to buy technology from many big companies, but the company never served me. It was the distributor or franchisee that actually I would see face to face and actually will take care of my ultrasound or my lasers and fix them, or sometimes replace them till they fix it. So that interaction for me was much more important than if I had the GE name on the machine.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for that. We'll take just a 2 minutes break. We have Seema and Kapil from the US India Chamber of Commerce joining us, and we'll continue the program. Thank you.
Good job.